Hello and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Today we shall be continuing our series of videos on weapons in your platoon. Basic tactics videos which are good for newer players, just highlighting some of the options they have out there. Because obviously there's a lot of, conflicting advice and old advice and past editions on the internet. We need to clarify what's up to date at the moment. And also, it's good for older players because a lot of older players, they get set in their ways. They stop even considering certain options. And the point of these videos for those guys is to make them consider other things. Give them a new angle on things. So it's good for both. So you guys can probably tell what today's video is going to be about. It's going to be about the bolter. Now, some of you are going to be saying, oh, we don't, how the hell do you get bolters? We're not Space Marines. Blah, 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 blah. Well, you get bolters for 1 point in the Imperial Guard Army, and they are available for pretty much any platoon-based character. So what I mean by that is your sergeants can take them, your platoon commanders can take them, and I think any character apart from the priest. Off the top of my head, any generic character in the Guard Army, apart from the priest, can take a bolter or bolt pistol. And commissars are very lucky because commissars, which I kind of count as part of the platoon because you can take one for each command squad, including platoon command squads. They come with a bolt pistol, and for free they can swap over to a bolter. But that is another video that I've already done. Go and, if you want a bit more advice on how to run your commissars, go and look at my commissar loadout video. But on topic to the video, the bolter. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is a 1 point upgrade available for your sergeants and platoon commanders. You can also take the bolt pistol for exactly 1 point as well. And I think if you're really crazy, you could take both, but there's no point in taking both. Okay, there's literally no point in taking both. Take one or the other. Okay, the reason there's no point, very quickly, is because if you go and look at the entry to the Guard War Gear section, it says you may replace your pistol and or close combat weapon with either bolt pistol or bolter. So if you replace both, what you'd end up having is a bolt gun and a bolt pistol, but you wouldn't get any extra attacks for close combat for having a bolt pistol and close combat weapon, because you've had to swap your last pistol for the bolt pistol and your close combat weapon for the bolter. Okay, a little bit of distraction, but that's just to clarify. Pick one or the other. Okay, if you don't understand what I've said, just take from this, pick one or the other. Now, 1 point. What could you possibly get for 1 point? Well, you get a strength 4. We're going to look at the bolter first. You get a strength 4, AP 5 weapon, rapid fire. Basically, you get +1 strength on your las gun and AP 5. Not too bad at all. Many players consider these auto includes for their squads, and there's a good reason for it. There is a good reason for it. Okay, the bolter is fantastically better than the las gun, and if you had the option of being able to give every guardsman a bolter for 1 point, even me, who squeezes every point, I'd probably consider it. For a lot of units, I'd probably consider it. Okay, so the bolter is definitely a very good gun. Is it mandatory though? Well, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, it's 1 point. You don't just pocket change. You don't even care. Fuck it, 1 point. That's a dangerous mentality, because those 1 points here and there will add up to something in the long run. So imagine I take a pure infantry army. I take something like 15 sergeants, 5 platoon commanders. I could take 20 bolters. That's 20 points. Now, what you've realistically got to ask yourself is the bolter is 20 bolters really worth it? What you've got to ask yourself, because remember, the ballistic skill 3, not ballistic skill 4. So take an en masse like that. Is it really worth it? It starts adding up. And I feel like you then start, if you end up taking bolters as a core part of your list, and you take them on everything, you'll start finding that you're sacrificing points from other areas. So you'll start being like, well, I've got all these bolters, but, shit, that's 20 points. Well, that means I've got to have missile launchers instead of las cannons. And we all know las cannons are better. Missile launchers are on the cheap. What you've got to ask yourself is it worth that sort of trade-off? Because those points have got to come from somewhere. Okay. So I wouldn't be too concerned about putting bolters everywhere, but I would take into account, is it detracting from your list? Is it starting to cause you to make sacrifices? Okay. Now, where the bolter really shines, and the reason it's 1 point is really works, is when you have a few points left over at the end. Okay? When you have a few points left over at the end of your list, you've got 3 or 4 points. Why not slap a bolter on some people? Why? If you've got 997 points, take 3 bolters. As long as you've got it modelled on the model, so you won't forget you've taken them. Yeah, of course. Of course. Of course. So that's my advice. One thing I would say, so you should it's better. What I'm trying to say is it's better for you to take 3 bolters than for you to be 3 points under. As a guard player, you realistically have no excuse ever for being a single point under. If you are running 999 points, take 1 bolter or bolt pistol. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Guard players, if you ever find yourself 3 or 4, maybe 5 points short, go and buy yourself some bolters. That's the real deal with the weapon. Now, one thing I want to say, so we've talked about what the bolter is, points costs, how you should implement them in your army. One thing you've got to consider is where you're going to put them in your platoon. Okay, now, a lot of people will just put them on every single sergeant squad, every single sergeant in every single squad, and not really think about it. I think there's actually you have to have a little bit of tactical thinking about where you're going to put your bolters. Okay. Because let's say you take a platoon squad and you give it 4 plasma guns, 4 las cannons, an anti-tank squad, or 4 melter guns, 4 las cannons. Okay. If you then go and put bolts, what you've got to ask yourself is, if you go and put bolters on that platoon, are they really going to do anything that game? Because what you've done is you've spent 4 points adding in anti-infantry fire to a platoon which is clearly going to be shooting at tanks all game. The lads in that kind of blob, the las guns are basically ablative wounds, or if in a pinch you have to try and grind someone down, las guns, you can use it. But you shouldn't add bolters to that squad. However, where bolters will obviously shine is in heavy bolter grenade launcher squads, autocannon grenade launcher squads, your dedicated anti-infantry squads. That's where you should put your bolters. Okay, and that way you'll find that, if you're taking let's say you're taking 2 or 3 platoons, you've got 1 of them or 2 of them which are your dedicated anti-tank platoons. That means you're only spending sort of 4 or 5 points adding a little bit more firepower to your anti-infantry platoon. So that's good. So don't go slapping them everywhere. Use the bolters to supplement your anti-infantry, your dedicated anti-infantry platoons or dedicated anti-infantry squads. Okay. Now, let's say you've got a few points left over at the end of your list. Let's say you've got about 3 or 4 points left over at the end of the list. Where do you choose to put those bolters then? Number 1 answer, on your officers first. Your junior and your senior officers. Okay, the reason you want to do this is because junior officers and senior officers are ballistic skill 4, which means that they will hit more often with the bolters. So that's bolters should be put into well, in general, bolters should be put into ballistic skill 4 models first, and then they go down to the grunts. Okay, that's where you should have them. If you've got a veteran squad and you've got 1 point left over, give the bolt pistol to the veteran, for example, if you've given it to all your officers already. You know. So yeah, that's it. That's where the bolter wants to go. I've said, you know, that's where it works well in the platoon. Couple of other things to take into consideration in regards to the bolter. Just trying to keep this video short. A couple of other things to take into consideration. Quick drink. Okay, a couple of other things to take into consideration is, number one, how are you going to get your hands on these bolters? You know, they don't come in the guard in any of the guard boxes, apart from, I think, you get a bolter in the Katachan command box. So I would say that's the number one reason for why you don't see every guard player everywhere putting bolters everywhere, because you have to actually get the bits, and for new players starting out, it can be quite difficult to get the bits. My recommendation would be go on bits. If you either speak to a friend who's got a Space Marine Codex or Space Marine Army, I guarantee he'll just give you like 30 bolters. He won't give a shit. Like if you go to your Space Marine buddy and say, "Hey, please can I have a load of spare bolters and bolt pistols?" He'll be like, "Yeah, sure, fuck them. Take them off my hands. They're clogging up my apartment. You know, I've got all these sprues, all these bolter bits. You know, take them." So that's number one, number place. Second idea is obviously go on a bit site. I bet I can go on eBay right now and just type in, you know, bolter bits, and it would come up. I'm just gonna see right now. Go do this test right now, live on camera. Okay, let's have a look. Bolter bits. That's literally what I'm typing in. Bolter bits. Yep, there you go. Literally typed in bolter bits. Right now, it's just page after page. Just random a little bit. 99p, 199. There you go. Some of it's a lot of it's biker bits. There's heavy bolter bits here as well. But here you go. Space Marine, Horus Heresy, bolters, arms, blades. You get 10 bolters there. $4.99. $4.49 even. There you go. 50p per bolter. You know, so there are ways to get them without getting distracted. There's loads of little designs here. Here you go. 30k Forge World Breacher bolt, Space Marine Breacher Siege Phobos bolter, $1.99. There you go. Space Marine fucking bolter, 99p. Chaos Space Marine bolt guns, fucking absolutely millions of them here. Sorry to go on about it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even count them all at a time. I wonder if it's in the description. There's about 20 bolters here. 20 bolters. I shit you not. Easily 20. £6.50 free delivery. So yeah, go on eBay. That if you want to get your bolter bits, that's where you get them from. So that's why you don't see them everywhere, because obviously you have to go and buy the bits, and they don't come on the box sets. Another reason why you don't see them everywhere is because you never know, next edition they won't be available. Because, you know, a couple of editions ago, everyone was able to take las guns on the sergeants. I think for many editions, up until 4th edition, you could equip sergeants with las guns, and everyone did that because sergeants with las guns is awesome because it gave you that extra shot. You know. And then 5th edition came around, and for some reason, or 5th edition Codex came around, we couldn't do that anymore, which was a shame. But that leads me on to my next point, which is a lot of people have had lasgun sergeants, and they can't do that anymore. But if you want to sort of hail back to those days of when everyone could shoot it, you know, with the long range firepower. That's what you can use your bolters for. Relive those days of your lasgun sergeants. Or hell, just use your lasgun sergeants and just say, you know, if he obviously looks like a fucking sergeant, just be like, well, he's got a bolter instead. I'm not, you know, or model it, you know, cut the lasgun out of his hand, stick a bolter in there, whatever. Magnetize it even. But anyway, that's it. That's the humble bolter. In the Imperial Guard, it's not so humble. In the Imperial Guard, you can consider the bolter almost an additional special weapon. because it's a big deal, you know. The bolter fires a more powerful shot than your mortar, has an additional AP. Think of it that way. 5 bolters are the equivalent of 1 mortar. They're pretty balanced. Think of it that way. So there you go. Nice little video on the bolter. Everyone knows about it really, but it just gives you some good ideas. Gives you new players something to think about. With you don't have to be stuck with that las pistol close combat weapon. You can get out there. You can get a bolt pistol, and you can start getting those squads contributing to the. You get those sergeants stop being useless and get them contributing to the long range DACA of your infantry. Hope you guys found this video useful, and I'll see you guys next time.